taking time out of your busy day to take a look at our vision as leaders in the marketplace on cloud transformation. So why don't we do that? Let's kick it off. It is 12:03. Let's kick it off. So I'm Eric Nadell. I'm a senior account manager here in the East Coast for DigiCert, and I'll just be doing 1 or 2 slides as an introduction and an overview. And Don Brooks there is in his wedding attire. I see it for the picture, but Don is actually the smart guy on the call, so he's going to do it with most of the presentation today as well. So let's keep it interactive. If you have any questions, put them in the chat box, and we look forward to providing our vision and hearing from you as well and making this interactive. So thank you. So DigiCert is really the world's leader in two main categories around certificates. One is TLS and SSL, and the other is IoT and PKI Solutions for identity and encryption. So we are the market leader. We are the 800-pound gorilla in this space. The most innovative companies, 89% of the Fortune 500 and 97 of the 100 top global banks choose DigiCert for our expertise in identity and encryption. We're the root of trust for the most innovative companies and in most of the world's e-commerce. We're the world's, back up please.
All right.
So we are the root of trust, for innovative companies. We provide most of the world's e-commerce, and we're the leading provider of scalable TLS, SSL, IoT, and PKI solutions. So we have more than 10 global offices in over 180 countries. What that means is that for companies that are looking to provide data sovereignty or provide technology that can only be used either on premises or in theater, we have the capabilities in the cloud offering and technology offering to be able to satisfy those requirements. So all these employees we have and the expertise we have are focused on delivering secure identity access, encryption for individuals, governments, and enterprise customers. So we provide this expertise through 2 main divisions, as I pointed out, the IoT division. The PKI and IoT division is the one that's performing this presentation. In 2023, you could look for us to merge those divisions even closer, so we work hand in hand, as opposed to having separate divisions, the Trust Solutions Group and the Digital Certificates Division. Those will be even closer together in 2023. On the PKI side, we have use cases including IoT, document signing, code signing. We were awarded the Visionary Innovative Leadership Award for IoT solutions last year. And we're, as I mentioned, a market leader. Most of our offerings on the Trust Solutions Group are managed services. So we provide all the heavy lifting and provide a complete overall managed solution for enterprise customers and government customers. If they do want on-premise solutions, we can offer that as well. On the TLS side, named the 2020 Global Company of the Year in TLS. Our certificates secure 81% of global e-commerce. It means billions of secure web connections are done every day. And we command the largest market share for high assurance certificates, an astounding 95% of the OV market and 65% of the EV market. That provides that. So if on the next slide, please. So one of the things that you could think about when you think about DigiCert as an organization is we provide the standard for digital trust, providing leadership in standards bodies. We shape the definitions of how trust is defined and established. We're founding members of the CAB Forum, for example. We also provide global operations and compliance that establish trust for many PKI users within organizations today. So we can actually provide certificate lifecycle management. We actually, on number 3, we establish trust through compliance and operations with data centers in 6 regions and high SLAs for high availability. We have more than 25 annual audits. So we can enable, we're experts in digital trust. We define digital trust, and we help companies write policy statements around digital trust and certificates. So as leaders in the marketplace, you can feel confident we can support you. So that's who DigiCert is. Now we're going to get into the meat of the presentation. Again, I prefer if you have any questions or comments to put those in the chat box, and we look forward to partnering with you. Our customers are not just one and done. We look to provide overall solutions as opposed to point solutions, with platforms as opposed to point solutions to enable your digital journey. So Don, without much ado, I'm going to turn it over to you and move forward with the presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Eric. And thanks to everyone again for taking the time to join us today. So what we're going to be talking about today is the main part of the presentation is really what's happened over the last several years. This, obviously with the pandemic, it forced a real acceleration for cloud adoption for a lot of organizations as we move to this, remote worker model. So that presented a lot of new challenges when it came to the certificate space and PKIs in general. So we can talk about those a little bit today and how we can help tackle some of those challenges. So we really think about the last few years. The world was moving toward the cloud at a good clip, but we really have seen a massive acceleration of those efforts over the last 3 years, and it's really necessity is the mother of invention. To paraphrase Plato. We were forced into a situation where we needed to find new solutions and new approaches and new technologies. And one of the things that, we've been in this space for a number of years, and we found, a lot of people, were very surprised that they could get their hands on and work on a PKI with a high level of assurance, with all of the right policies, process, procedure, get it all as a managed service. Because it's always been such a black box to so many organizations. When we look at it's not just accelerated timelines, it's also expanded initiatives, new initiatives. I can't even count on both hands the number of companies in the last 3 years that I've heard who are talking about things like always on VPNs and passwordless authentication and cloud provisioning of new users and onboarding. All of these things were, again, necessities forced us to address these challenges, and a lot of them were addressed through these cloud initiatives, maybe that were underway or needed to be accelerated. And we can see here, when we look at the different types of work, it's not just supporting that remote work. Moving more workloads to the cloud as it's more economical to get your compute there, for example. We've seen that in the last several, last decade or so, really. A shift to a cloud native software development and DevOps practice. That's been a huge shift. A lot of companies moving their DevOps pipelines and their CI/CD for development into the cloud, and integrating with some of these cloud services for things like, how do I sign my software in the cloud securely? How do I control all of the identities around that process? Creates a lot of new challenges. And then shifting to a digital delivery of customer experience has been a big driver as well. One of the big things that we've seen as a result of the last several years is really an explosion of the RON platforms, if you will, their remote online notarization. So if you need to get something notarized, if you're buying a house, you're buying a car, whatever it might be, those are services now that we're seeing move into this digital transformation like never before. It's only going to continue accelerating, as we get further into, the 2023 and beyond. Next slide here. So when we talk about, accelerating the results, it's really remarkable when you break it down, according to several different sources, including IDG and McKinsey. Enterprises are accelerating. They're now about 3 years ahead of schedule on average when looking at moving customers into a digital customer experience. 7 years ahead of schedule in increasing the amount of or the share of their products and services that are delivered digitally, as opposed to through more traditional means like customer service, centers and call centers, things of that nature. A lot of these types of processes are accelerating now and providing opportunities for, tying in remote workers into virtual call centers. So, where it used to be, weeks and months for deploying things and working through the processes, getting everything integrated. Now, it's all about real-time deployment, getting things up and running and integrated, as close to real time as we can, so that we're not spinning up these resources and then not utilizing them. It's truly a just-in-time or on-demand type of a world. Previously, when we were all in offices, VPNs were the security perimeter for the most part for a lot of organizations. Now, you've got all kinds of additional potential risks out there as things are moving into cloud environments, multi-clouds, as you get into B2B connections between your clouds. All of these things are really, additional risk surface that we need to deal with now. And the way most organizations are choosing to deal with it comes down to identity and access management. And in a lot of cases, those technologies ultimately are driven from, sort of the book of record, if you will, is, our certificate, is our PKI, because that's where we have the governance and the policies and the process to identify systems, applications, individuals, to grant them identity proof in the form of a certificate, and then that certificate can convey trust to our users or to the general public, depending on if we're talking about public or private trust. When we look at some of the things that we're seeing that are really kind of upsetting or disrupting a lot of the organizational transition process that we see, tend to be things around governance and compliance and making sure that you have those areas covered. It's not just a technology problem. Technology is a means to an end, not an end to itself. We have to have the process, the policy, the governance in place to then have the technology implement and enforce for us. And that's one of the nice parts of moving into a cloud-based managed PKI is the general outline of certificate practices is already done for you. It's then relatively easy to take that and adapt that into a practices statement, for example. So you have a written governance, how we issue certificates, what is the approval process, how do we keep track of it? Because ultimately, certificates are identity documents, if you will. They're a driver's license, they're a birth certificate, they're a social security card. We need to know when we're handing them out that we're giving them to the correct individual system, application, whatever it might be, and that we're protecting that key material from compromise so that others can then trust that identity as well with a high level of assurance. So we look at beyond 2022, some of the initiatives that we're seeing around the digital trust space. You hear zero trust all the time. Zero trust means a lot of different things, depending on which vendor you talk to sometimes. But ultimately, it's about identity. It's about making sure that you have a positive identity and a positive authentication of an individual or a system or an application, so that we know, both sides know they're talking to whom they think they are, and that the proper level of access is given to them. So that does tie in with remote work, but there's also on-prem implementations of that as well. You're also seeing a big move toward the idea of passwordless authentication. The classic problem of the user help desk, getting all of the calls for users who forget their password or get locked out, just exploded, quite frankly, when we all left the office. So people are looking for new ways to authenticate and validate into an environment. A lot of times tying in with that zero trust initiative. And again, certificates are powering a lot of those different technologies, whether you're talking about virtual smart cards or something like a Windows Hello for Business, or if you're talking about something like a Cisco federated authentication, Citrix federated authentication services, maybe tying in with serving up apps and things like that. Ultimately, we have an environment, unfortunately, that's complicating things because we have issues going on, like, for instance, on the public trust side, certificate lifetimes are being shortened dramatically. So whereas a couple of years ago, you could get certificates that were good for multiple years, it's down to a year for some certificates. It's going to go even shorter, we think. We're also seeing a big move within the standards bodies to require hardware storage and proper key management for high value and high assurance certificates. So those are creating, the conundrums for people. Suddenly your DevOps folks can't just all use the same certificate on a drive somewhere. It has to be on a USB hardware key. They have a PIN number with it. It adds complexity to the situation. And then, overall, this just all leads to an increase in that the risk surface or that attack surface area that I talked about. You've got DevOps out there in the cloud now. That's a potentially new source of risk or a new avenue of attack for the bad guys to go after things like supply chain attacks, like what we saw over the last couple of years with companies like SolarWinds or the NVIDIA attack, where they're getting source code, they're compromising things, they're getting certificates that are used to sign software that millions of people trust all over the world, because there's not proper key management processes and storage in place there. And so all of these areas are things that we've been thinking about for a long time, and that we have a variety of different paths and different solutions we can go down to address these types of issues. When we look at the traditional PKI solutions, they don't always have the right blend of flexibility, scalability, doesn't have all of the right connectors. A lot of times the traditional on-prem PKI solutions are not very scalable. They can be difficult to maintain. They don't have very friendly tools. So when you sort of look at the cloud transformation and the challenges, they are kind of just extensions of the same issues that we went through with the on-prem piece or the traditional on-prem PKI deployments. But with this move to the cloud now, it becomes necessary to move to a more cloud-centered model for the provision of trust and certificates in an organization, so that everybody can have access. I talk to customers who they suddenly found themselves in a situation where all of their passwords and everything for their users were on smart cards. Well, what happens when somebody needs a new card because theirs was lost, or what happens when a new employee comes on board? How do you get that employee provisioned with certificates remotely if they've never authenticated with you before. So some of those types of challenges are interesting things that we're looking at, helping customers with things like providing birth certificates on devices that are sent out to the customer or sent out to their employees for provisioning. Things of that nature. And that's what the power and the value of that cloud-based capability, where that comes in, because we can adjust, we can integrate. We have an open API structure. We support all of these standard-based for certificate enrollment processes. So it makes it easy to kind of, it's a PKI that meets you where you are, if you will. It is designed to utilize the tools and the technologies and the techniques that you're already using, so that you're not making a wholesale shift in the way that you do business. We're just enabling the security and the identity piece underneath it, and doing it in a way that provides an easy path, not only to deployment, but also lifecycle management going forward, which is really crucial. You guess your traditional on-prem challenges, making sure you've got the right resources, making sure you've got the right, storage capacity with things like HSMs, hardware security modules. Well, if you're running your own PKI, what happens if everybody is suddenly now working from home and you need to get a new ICA sign? Well, now you have to get multiple people from perhaps different areas of the country to go to a data center somewhere, which nobody works at nor these days, to then go in and physically perform these processes of creating the key ceremonies. All of these types of things they're things that we've been thinking about for a long time, and we've been helping customers with for a long time in various capacities. The pandemic and the resulting acceleration that we're talking about today has really just provided a lot more opportunity for us to assist clients with this in a variety of different industries, as opposed to government, military, where a lot of this has been done for years. But was done on a much larger scale even than most organizations, corporations out there. So when we talk about how do you get PKI from where it was and the challenges to something that's going to help us through this cloud transformation, when we look at it, it's really about addressing those challenges that we talked about. So, if you've got, cloud-based environments, how do you get to quick deployment? How do you make it, portable? How do you make it, scalable? We use containers. It's all container-based. So it's a microservices-oriented architecture, cloud-first or cloud-native container-based architecture. It makes it very easy to get it up and running, and makes it incredibly scalable. And allows you to do things like creating tiered deployments, where maybe you have a hybrid deployment where you have some air-gapped network facilities somewhere where you have an instance running there, but then you also have a multi-cloud environment where you have an instance that runs there as well. Maybe you have third-party partners. If you're an IoT manufacturer, maybe you've got a third-party manufacturer you work with in Taiwan or Southeast Asia somewhere. You can bring them in and allow them to utilize certificates for devices they may be putting together for you. Providing that single pane visibility and management across the board. So rather we're talking about typical enterprise PKI use cases, if we're talking about public certificates for your web servers, if we're talking about code signing, document signing, whatever it might be, it's this single pane visibility, that single book of record, so that we know all of the identities that we're currently managing, and we have an audit record of everything from when those identities were validated originally, how were they validated, all the way through any issuance, renewals, escrows. So we really provide a cradle to grave record for that identity certificate, so we always know where it is and what it's doing, and we always have control over it. So if we need to revoke it, we can. But we could also do things like, I say I have an employee who forgets their smart card at home. I don't necessarily want to, void their credential, but I also don't want it to be valid until they can prove to me that they have possession of it again. So maybe I can suspend it. Having the control that we provide you within the cloud-based PKI makes you the registration authority. It puts you in charge of your own certificate's destiny. If you have an individual leave the organization partway through the year and they have a certificate for their encrypted email, you can revoke that certificate, and now it's available. That license is available immediately again. It's not the traditional model of going to the CA and asking them every time you need a certificate. It's providing you the ability to be your own internal private CA, but to have all of the infrastructure, processes, personnel, security, auditing, governance, etc., that comes with having DigiCert standing behind it. So when we talk about the PKI Manager, which is the facility within our platform that allows you to manage for the traditional enterprise use cases, machine, device identity, user certificates for SMIME, document signing, things of that nature. What we want to do is, kind of give the broadest set of access to use cases to you. So we have pre-built templates, pre-built integrations for the usual suspects that we tend to run into. So your MDM or UEM solutions out there like Microsoft Intune or Jamf or Mobi Control or what have you. Also looking at things like credential management systems. If you use smart cards, things like MyID from Interseed and HID. We also work with VersaSec, which is a smaller credential management service provider. We also have integrations for standard Windows operations like auto enrollment, being able to do GPO-based auto enrollment for your Windows users. Again, we can do that in a Windows native or an on-prem Windows environment or a hybrid environment. And moving forward into this next year, we're going to be able to provide that for Azure only or cloud only environments as well. So what this means is it delivers the PKI to you in a very quick fashion from the moment that you begin the process of implementation until you get it stood up. Because we've got this rich ecosystem with technology partners. And again, it's designed to plug into and use tools and technologies and capabilities you already have today. So the learning curve for your staff and your team to learn how to work with the system is minimal because for the most part, you're working with those tools and systems that you do already. So I mentioned this phrase earlier, the PKI that kind of meets you where you are. It's the flexibility to provide this scalable service to you in whatever flavor, whatever deployment methodology, whatever geo locations for data sovereignty issues that you need. So we can provide carve outs for EU or the Japanese market with some of their specific data sovereignty standards. We also have the ability to extend the system with some components that you can run in your own environment. So if you want to do things like local key escrow, so if you want to have those in your environment and you want to be responsible for those, we can accommodate that. We could also store those and escrow those in the cloud for you. So, again, it's just an example where we can, give it to you in a number of different ways. We just need to understand what your end goals are. What are you trying to achieve? And then we can come and help, bring some lessons learned and our own experience and make put together a solution for you that really looks at how do we solve the totality of your problem, not just how do we get certificates to you and then you're on your own, which is unfortunately the approach a lot of the on-prem PKIs take. So we talk about the overall architecture of DigiCert One and what that gives you, the value add and the benefits of the way that it's built. Is very quick, flexible deployments, easy automation, like we've been talking about, those integrations. Centralized policy. I can't stress the policy side of this enough. So many organizations that we work with, when we initially start talking to them, they don't have any kind of governance or policies that are really formalized. It's a lot of it is just kind of tribal knowledge. It's just customs that have developed over time. And when we're talking about how we identify the entities within our organization and having that form the basis of trust, it's just super important to make sure that we have those policies set up. And this really allows you to not only create that policy, but to express and enforce the policy, to audit the policy, to make sure that it's being done the way that you want it to be done. So let's talk about some sort of key takeaways in a summary. So we think about the last 3 years, it's really spread things up. And we're talking about, folks moving to, cloud-based environments, transforming, formerly on-prem or even non-digital customer experiences into the digital realm. This has driven a big, large increase in investment, as we talked about, with organizations accelerating and bringing in these new initiatives to take advantage of the cloud, but also out of necessity in a reaction to that the last 3 years. What that means though is we've used a lot of, if you pardon the expression, we put a lot of square pegs into round holes over the last 3 years to get things to a point where it's functional. But we know that this process has caused some gaps. So we've got to address those gaps. And one of the things that, we find a lot of customers get, hung up on when they're looking at these is how do they manage, the identity? How do they manage, provisioning, onboarding? How are all of these different, components that are now completely outside of my perimeter? The cloud is the perimeter now. How do I get my hands around all of that and manage that identity? Because it's a lot bigger risk surface than it used to be. And again, a lot of companies are finding that regardless of the solution, whether it's zero trust, whether they're looking at a way to optimize DevOps, they're finding that identity and certificate-based identity is a key component behind a lot of those technologies. So having your PKI house in order, so to speak, having that infrastructure in place, being able to address those areas of concern, those gaps, tends to be something that folks get hung up on because PKI traditionally has been that more closed and centered world. What we've really done is modernized this environment and this paradigm by creating that single platform that covers all of the different use cases, IoT, code signing, doc signing, whatever it is, giving that single platform so that you've got that integrated view of everything that's going on. But you've also got a consistent centralized policy across all of those different identity services expressed through how the system delivers those certificates to your users. Making sure that we've got flexible deployments for any environment. It's very rare that we find organizations today that have one data center in one place that they want to put their PKI into. They're at the very least redundancies, geographic splits of organizations. You got folks in different continents. You've got data sovereignty requirements. Some organizations have, internal or compliance requirements that require them to still keep all of their keys on-prem with a security officer, for example. And so we can support all of those different environments and deployment architectures because of the flexibility that we have within our offering. This is about ultimately making it, deployed in, minutes and hours, not days and months. So it's a very fast, very quick time to production for these systems, which is vital because, as I said, they tend to be sitting behind and powering other technologies. So, in those cases, we want to make sure that when we go to provide that function to the new zero trust architecture, whatever it is, that we've got an easy integration. We can plug it in, we can get it up and running, and get moving with the deployment of whatever that technology, whatever that security control is, without having to make it all about the certificates. You just want your CA to work. You want it to work all the time, and you want it to protect your policy, your process, or enforce your policy and process to ultimately protect your organization from anything untoward. So this is the first in a series that we are putting on. There are some upcoming virtual events that are scheduled here, including protecting IoT device lifecycle on August 10th. We're going to talk about Trust Gap and DevSecOps. Mentioned a lot of companies moving to cloud-centered development lifecycle. And then in October, we're going to talk about Windows Hello for Business. Again, I spoke about this a little bit earlier. We see a lot of organizations looking at technologies like this, virtual smart cards or passwordless authentication for their users. For instance, Microsoft has an implementation. We have a direct integration to it to provide the certificates that back that technology. So with that, I think I'd like to open it up for discussion, questions, answers. As Eric said, hopefully you've been submitting some questions as we've gone along. Melissa, can you take a look and tell me if there are any questions?
Sure. I think that we have one in there from, let's see here. Based on your experience, how long does it take your clients to get up and running with your managed PKI versus standing something up in their own data center?
Okay. Yeah, great question. Great question. And yeah, it's, when I say, minutes and hours, not weeks and months, what we're talking about for most organizations to get, up and running, to get everything integrated, including all their MDM, et cetera. Most organizations are looking at 14 to 21 days total to do that. I've seen organizations do it much quicker than that. Just kind of depends on the scale of how many different integration points you might have. Okay, so
we do have, I think there's another question. Can you see it in the chat?
Yes. So how will DigiCert enforce that from September? He's talking about the new requirement for HSM for hardware security module storage of the key materials for code signing. There's a couple of different ways that we're going to handle it. So we'll provide the certificates on a Talus USB token that satisfies the FIPS storage requirement. We can also allow you to get a certificate, submit a CSR to us if you have your own HSM. There will be a process to support you doing that. And then the third way is we have a manager, we have a facility within our DigiCert One platform called Secure Software Manager that actually supports complete cloud-based signing that includes the certificates, everything else. You effectively, we have a set of tools that you download. It integrates with whatever your build process is, whether it's a CI/CD or if it's just a build server on-prem. If you're running, Sign Tool or whatever, it's designed to, again, snap in and work with those tools, but it allows you to do cloud-based hash signing. So your code never has to leave your environment, but all of the key material is always stored in HSMs. And there's a bunch of capabilities around, again, putting that corporate policy into use to say, these individuals are allowed to sign this, using this certificate or these keys only during this period of time. So it's got, some additional policy capabilities as well. So it'll scale and it'll depend on, kind of what, again, we want to meet you where you're at. So, we can provide the storage, we can take advantage of your storage, or we can provide you something in the cloud. Okay, any
I
other?
think that's all the questions.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I will go ahead and pass it back over to Eric then for any final thoughts. And Eric?
No, that's great. Thank you, Don, for the presentation. We, as Don mentioned, we are having a series of this, and we also are available for individual, meetings. If you'd like more information, we could do a 30-minute with you and just discuss your specific use case in your specific environment. But we welcome the opportunity as market leaders to provide information and continue to share our vision on the marketplace. So we thank you so much for attending, and let's just keep communicating and working together as partners moving forward. Thank you, Melissa, for organizing.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Have a great day.